does the snowman returneth? He is back in our lives. My favorite character from Final Fantasy XIII by miles. People were absolutely anticipating my joy at seeing him back. He makes me laugh. He's not a good person by any means. He's not a good person, but he's so goofy and so, like, over the top and, like, I'm gonna do everything. Way! All that kind of stuff that he just makes me laugh, especially compared to the very emo, very dour other characters that are in 13. I don't have yet. I've been, like, looking through my VODs of Final Fantasy XIII a little bit, and I don't have, like, a Fang yet. Like, somebody who's more, like, serious and somewhat relatable, as close as possible in 13, because it's a very high up fantasy story, right? It's a very, very fantastical story with characters like Snow and Lightning and Hope, you know, like, very on-the-nose kind of stuff. The story continues on, and we've developed this so much similarities to Final Fantasy XIV that's going on here. Two things I really want to talk about today, because I got to actually experience them fully. One is the story as it's developed. The other is the combat system. I forgot how good this combat system is, and I'm really happy they just didn't do what they did in Final Fantasy X-2, which is like deviate away and try and reinvent the wheel a little bit compared to what people are used to. I think it's difficult sometimes when companies make a sequel. What do you change? And this has happened to me a couple of times recently. One was Final Fantasy X to X-2, where they were like, okay, let's try and do this with what already worked. And they got praise for their combat system and the sphere grid and all that. And then they changed it a bit. And it didn't work for me. It, like, ran into new problems. This one, they, like, seemingly learned from that. And they were like, let's just leave it alone. It works, right? We can mess around a little bit, which is the monster element that they've added in for the third party member. So I'm kind of guessing we do not really get a third party member. Instead, we get, like, infinite number of monsters that we can add to the team. I'm wondering how this plays out, though, because you level them up by investing into them with items. And they get, you know, pretty good. So what I suspect is going to happen is that just later in the game, you'll have one that's naturally higher level. Because you feel like you've invested into one and you're kind of stuck with it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I got this at level 1, but now I've got it up to, like, level 40 or whatever. And, like, this is my guy. Now I need a monster of an appropriate level to replace it. So I'm going to pay attention to that the next time we play through it. But I was fighting a boss. I think it was Atlas. And a message came through in the live chat. I was like, I have no idea what's going on because I was so dialed in and I was having such a good time. I was having a really good time. And I was like, that's my mistake as a streamer. I should be explaining what's happening here because unlike the first time you play the game, where you have to learn the combat system along with the audience, this time I kind of remembered it a little bit. And it got going in a really nice way. Needless to say, I'll do that in probably a different video, but this combat system is very, very good. The idea of it being a quote-unquote auto battle, but instead of, like, choosing the spells, which is a frustration I had in X-2, you manage the stances and deployment of your team in a really rapid action, especially when things are not good or it's difficult. A really rapid momentum that's generated with your inputs, despite the fact the characters are kind of figuring out what spells are best. It's a good system. I like it a lot. Very happy with it. The story then. So, yeah, I said reminiscent of Final Fantasy XIV. In that, I mean the obvious ether problem that's been plaguing Final Fantasy XIV storytelling now for several years, and we've talked about it a whole bunch in 14. So the story is obviously these developing timelines. So far, we haven't had to go and affect time out of choice, Chrono Trigger style. Which is what I was hoping for, is like recognizing something and going, oh, I can go back to here and change something and then go back again and that will change. That might happen later on, is to try and alter the future with intention. So far, it's been pretty on rails of like, you could go here, so go there. And it tells you what to do while you're there. And you're not really making any decisions or figuring things out. You're not boiling things down. It's like, oh, this, you know, like something simple like, this doorway is like blocked, but it got blocked during that fight. So what if I went back and did something else and then the doorway would be open? You know, things like that. So far, I haven't really had that. What I have had is returning to areas, and the way they do it is allow you to sort of it's put in a very convoluted way of like you close the time gate and then you reopen. You're resetting the area, right? You're resetting the zone. That's all it is, and you go back and there's another gate. So a zone might have 2 time gates in it. So you went through one, but now you should go through the other one, and that'll take you to a different map. So for all intents and purposes, so far, the time travel has really just been different map locations. I want time to be a bigger factor. This is the main crux of what you're doing, is having these people travel through time. The Chrono Trigger came out a long, long time ago and taught a very clear lesson of what made that great and how you can affect the world with when you introduce time travel like this. So I want to see more on that. But on the other side of it, we are bumping into people. We met Hope. Hope is now the director of the Academy that is researching the time paradoxes that have been occurring because time and other timelines are all converging and making a mess of things and destroying parts of the world. Our Moogle is able to counteract these effects and then you end up solving paradoxes in these very simple puzzles. It is what it is. It's not fun. But it's Final Fantasy. There's mini games, right? You've got to get used to it. They're not always the greatest thing in the world. Let's put it that way. But I've done a few of these puzzles now, and the Moogle's able to sort of correct these things. So I kind of think the Moogle is going to play a bigger part in the story later on. So we met Hope. That was nice. Some of the characters are reappearing older as you go like 6, 7 years in the future. That person reappears who you met in the past and they remember you and they've changed a little bit, and that's kind of cool. But other than that, they have the problem, the Final Fantasy XIV problem is that the people you meet there, including Snow, so we bump into Snow, who's aware of a giant flan that's, its acidic nature is crumbling the crystal that's holding Cocoon up. That's how Cocoon fell. Is this giant flan was like eating away at it, and it eventually crumbled and fell. So he's been dealing with that in the future. So we find him, and it's very odd. I almost think it feels like they either kind of regret that Sarah was engaged to Snow and don't really want to pursue that, or they don't want you to... Oh, they don't know how to write these characters. These are 2 lovers who are engaged to be married, and they've been separated for years. And they find each other, and... They don't really care. Like, the reunion is very muted compared to what it should be. It's very odd. Even when you find out, it's like, oh, these characters... The way it's worded is a little odd. The time gates are built specifically, is what I'm getting. So I wonder if Lightning built them. I'm not sure how it works, because it says... Noel says, oh, the time gates are programmed for certain people to use, which in this case is Noel and Sarah. So Snow can't use it, and therefore he's trapped there. And so he can't leave. Now, that's obviously a game problem that I imagine they ran into, which is like, we don't want a third party member, so we don't want you to reunite with Hope and have Hope in the team. I assume we're going to see Vanille and Fang again. We don't really want them to join the team because you got the monster system, and the same with Snow. And definitely don't want you to, like, replace Sarah and Noel, which is what I would do in a heartbeat. So they just keep them trapped there, which is... But when they leave... And they leave Snow. They don't even, like, a kiss goodbye or anything. They've been separated for years. They get back together for, like, an hour. And now they have to leave him behind again. This should be a really emotional moment of, like, we just found each other after years. And it's been even longer for Snow. Snow's been gone for years and years and years. And here's my love of my life. Bye. It's very weird. It's very, very weird. I also think that part of it might be that they, in movies and storytelling and stuff, is you kind of want the player to think they have a chance with somebody, and will she, won't she? And you see this all the time in so many different ways. Streamers is a big one, you know? Certainly female streamers who don't like mentioning that they have a partner. Because there are a lot of people who want that thought process. It is a real thing. Whether it sounds cringe or not, it doesn't matter. But it is a real thing that happens. So I wonder if they wrote it in that way. It's just unusual to me. I'm like, if I lost Emma for years, I didn't know what happened to her, and then I found her, she's alive, she's well. That would be the best day of my life. Nothing else would matter for a good period of time as we reconnected. And then to find out like an hour later is I have to leave you behind again. Bro, it would be heartbreaking. And they just kind of sort of like, see you later. Take it easy. Be safe. All right. I guess so. Yeah, very, very odd. But I think I've just touched on something which is important, is I don't like Noel or Sarah as characters. But that's me. And you guys are not surprised by that. I don't like Noel. Noel is just awful. Absolutely awful. Like the most petulant, know-it-all. It's one thing, it's not just his personality. His personality doesn't match what supposedly happened to him. We're talking about a guy who is the last human being. As far as we're understanding the story, he survived to the end of time itself. And he is the last human being. You would think that would have given him some level of grit and focus, that he's now got a chance to change what happened. He saw the universe crumble. You know, I mean, I know it's a bit dramatic, but he saw the lights fade. He's been through some stuff, but instead he's more bothered about like Snow is too gung ho. We're gonna get some story like he hated his father or something like that, because he's definitely projecting. But it just doesn't fit for me, considering what this character is supposed to have gone through. I want to compare it a bit to Doctor Who. Particularly well, a few of them, but mainly David Tennant, who's my favorite Doctor, who has traveled through the time ways and seen what happens and dealt with things. And he's fun and jovial because he has to be, because he has to believe in a future that's bright. But when the darkness comes, and this always is referred to, and if you're not a fan of Doctor Who, when you want to see something, there's something called The Family, or the Time Family. I should have researched this beforehand, but there's a family that he meets where the dark side of the Doctor has to come out and exists. This person who has seen everything. Now, he's old. The big difference is the Doctor is very, very old, and obviously Noel isn't, so he's allowed some immaturity there for sure. But I would have expected something a little more focused on less minutia, considering what he's been through. And instead you get this sort of whiny, petulant child, which I don't like. Sarah is just so unbelievably naive all the time, and la-di-da-di-da away with the fairies and stuff. She's survived crazy things, like been through absolutely insanity to get where she is, yet she's still got her head in the clouds, and just sort of like follows her heart at every opportunity, which I think is relatable to teenagers, I guess, which is who this is written for, so I understand it. But again, these are people who've been through some really tough times, like her sister and not close friends. I had a skim through 13, and she didn't really meet Fang at all, I don't think, and Vanille, not much. But there were still people that went through a hell of a lot of stuff, and the world was coming to an end. Like, they've been through some stuff. Hopefully, they don't fit, is what I'm saying. So I'm not a big fan of those characters, which might play into me not enjoying the story, because I think we're with them to the bitter end, choice or not. Not just in cutscenes, but actually gameplay-wise. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Overall, though, the total package is very, very good. What I want to see going forward is I want to see these two characters grow. Would love to see that. I don't think they need to go as far as like Clive and Jill from 16, but grow in somewhat. I would like to see that. I would also really love to see time be something we can play with and have some thoughts with. It would feel very, very disappointing if we've got this entire Chrono Trigger. It's almost identical to Chrono Trigger, including traveling to like voids between time. And it's not utilized in a way where the player has any agency. I would really like to see that puzzle solving rather than like, you should do this. Oh, there's a collectible on this map. Go get it. So I hope that works out. All right. Next time we'll talk about more of the combat system and a bit of story. So I'll see you then. Love you guys. Bye-bye.